The topic being social media. So I was trying to look at what is the definition, and one of the things that I came across was it's not about what each one of us does or say, but it's about what each one of us does or say together. So it's a lot about sharing. It's a lot about our tendency to want to get our friends on board, discuss and come to a discussion. I think it's also about the growing individuality of the consumer. Finally, we all are becoming much more individualistic, therefore evolving strong taste, strong preferences. That and wanting to share that, therefore we have become much more expressive and wanting to also use the online social media as a platform to actually share our views with others, and that's where social media plays a very strong role. The other important thing is actually we are now listening to equally like-minded, strong opinion individuals. So it's actually web plays a very strong platform there. And I think as brands and retailers, we don't have a choice. We don't have a choice not to be there. Because if we are not on social media and we are not talking there, somebody else is talking about us there. In fact, some of the research that a Deloitte study said was for a search result on the world's top 20 brands, 25% of the search results actually were user-generated content and not what the brand wrote about themselves. So it was somebody else who had spoken about the brand, and that came up first. Similarly, another point was that 34% of bloggers actually write about their experience online. So any brand, any retailer has to be on this medium, has to be communicating, has to be conversing. To set a context, set the background of the discussion that will follow, may I invite Mr. Mahesh Murthy to share his thoughts.
Hi. In fact, there are lots of empty seats here, so all of you out there, it's going to be a fun discussion that I think Bhuvan's going to be leading. Why don't you guys move over here so we can actually make it a social forum. This is always a challenging one, the one right after lunch. It's the one where you know the speakers are set up for a big fall. So doing all I can to get some circulation back in everybody's legs. I'm not going to keep my speaker panel here waiting too long on stage. I'll probably try to do my bit in 10 minutes or less. I just want to put 10 or 12, maybe 12 thought starters into your heads about retail and social media in India. It's not very much. Before I start, just a little background. I've been an advertising and marketing person for 28 odd years. I wear two hats. I founded what is today India's largest independent digital firm called Pinstorm. And under a different hat, I also am an investor in various startups. I run a venture capital fund. And I kind of practice what I preach. So with companies like Redbus, which is today at more than 500-800 crores in revenue, without running a single television or print ad, or companies like Done by None, which get all their e-commerce sales from Facebook, or companies like Fetish, which do exactly the same, or Carvale. These are pretty much we practice what we preach with the companies. So these are all real cases and real numbers, and I'm happy all of us are going to be able to add to that. I just wanted the first interesting thought starter is that there are about 137, and so let's be a little conservative, 135 million users of the internet in India. To put that in perspective, there are only 121 million cable and satellite television sets. So there are more users of the internet than there are TV sets in India. To put that again in perspective, there's only 7 million circulation for Times of India, and Star TV's reach, even Star Plus's reach in SEC AB is 25 million. So the reach of digital in India is 20 times the reach of Times of India, and about 6 times the reach of Star Plus. So digital is by no means a niche medium. It is among the largest medium that we already have here today. And I think also these numbers will more than double. Talking to my friends at Facebook, Google and Airtel, there's consensus that this will be about 300 million by 2014, 2015. So we're really talking about the world's second largest digital population in 3 years' time. Some other numbers, there's 61 million people today on Facebook in India. There's 15 million people plus both on Twitter in India and also on Google Plus in India. If I put the social networks together, we have more than, I'd say about 25 million daily users of social networks in India, including 15 or 16 million daily users of Facebook. To put that in perspective, when you have an IPL match, which has a rating of 3, you get 3 million viewers. 3 million viewers in SEC AB 1524. Facebook gives you 5 times the reach of an IPL match on TV already today in India. So I wanted to put this out there to really show you the size and scale that the medium has already reached in India. Some more numbers for the geeks among you. We are out of the 135 million, 80 million of these users access the net from a mobile device. I think there's some crosstalk happening out here. Yeah, 80 million of these users access it from a mobile device. There's actually 90 million who access it from the desktop, but there's an overlap of people who access it from both. 40 million of these are from smartphones. And interestingly, 16 million of those are Androids. And that's growing at 1 million a month. And by next year, sometime there'll be 30 million Androids already in India. 4 million are iOS devices, of which 0.8 million are iPads and 3.4 million are iPhones. So we're really talking about a market which is already here. So these are up-to-date numbers that we can get on India. Already in the month of April, the amount of mobile data access eclipsed the amount of desktop data access in India. So even though there are fewer mobile devices, they use the net more than the desktop devices. Specifically on social, 56% of all Facebook access in India is from mobile. 50% of other social media access is again mobile. So social is again very mobile driven. This is really interesting. If you think about the TV, you think about prime time between 7 p.m., 10 p.m. I used to run a TV channel, so I come from those numbers. But if you look at the data usage on desktop, it kind of peaks it goes and starts, a little after TV shuts, a couple of hours later, desktop access goes down. Mobile access of the net goes up till 2, 3, 4 in the morning. So there's people lying down in bed, using their phones, accessing the internet. So your idea of prime time is vastly different when you take an integrated view of the world out there. 70% of all the stock market trading in India is speculation. It's not delivery based. People buy on a Monday and sell before the Friday, before closing. And almost 100% of the data source is social, which is buzz about the stocks out there. We handle several of these firms, and a lot of our job is managing stock prices out there. And I can certainly tell you, without naming the firms, that for example, you can see what's happened with DLF. Their stock price with Robert Vadra and all that in the last 2 days. But social really impacts their market cap, in our experience, much more than print or TV. If you're a public traded firm or want to be a public traded firm, this is something you will be very cognizant about. There's an entire genre of evangelists that we call, that are online evangelists. So, for example, this is a HT story on a lot of them. We keep track of about 6,000 of them on a daily basis. And these are people who are far more powerful than journalists. So today's brands actually have an online evangelist management strategy saying, how do we manage these citizen journalists, which are very different from regular journalists, right? The 4 pillars of digital are search, social, video, and mobile. And it's about figuring out how you use these 4 in tandem, and we'll talk a little more about that today. Just looking at Google, and this is a simple search for a smartphone, you'll figure out once upon a time it was very simple to get onto Google. Today, to get there, you need to do directory listings. To get here, you need to rebuild your site and your SEO. To get there, you need to do SEM. To get there, you need to do online reputation management. You need to do e-commerce optimization. You need to do online evangelist management to get into the reviews. You need to do social video optimization to get into the YouTube listings. You need to do social media management to get onto the Twitter and Facebook feeds that happen out there. And you need to do competitive tracking. Everything is integrated. You can't treat these separately, and it's very difficult to say, you handle my search, you handle my social, you handle my display. It's very difficult to do that anymore. It's all integrated today, right? More specifically on social, corporate CopCom, HR, brand marketing, e-commerce, customer service, reputation management, evangelist management. There's so many things you can do with social. Social is just a tool for multiple business functions. So you need to work via a process. Everybody has different processes. The one that I've found that makes sense for the brands that I work with is a process that we call Aspire. It starts with absorb everything about your brand and your competition. Solve the immediate customer problems which have the highest negative sentiment and the highest visibility. Plan, look at the analytics and figure out what people are saying about you and the others and what is it that you need to do. Invent, create something that is remark-worthy, that gets people chatting about it and that spreads virally. Radiate. If you can't, when there's limited viral spread, add some media money to be able to spread it even wider, and endlessly do this 24/7. In fact, the biggest discovery when we were handling brands like Cafe Coffee Day was 80% of the conversation was on weekends. And when there was nobody at the weekend, you can't reply to a Friday evening tweet on a Tuesday morning or a Monday morning. So actually today, the firm that I founded works 7 days a week and works in 2 shifts because, what the conversation on a Sunday needs to be answered on a Sunday, right? So different parts of your own business, customer service, business intelligence, brand marketing, marketing communications, HR, CopCom will come into play. Similarly, different parts, different tools, whether it's reputation management, analytics, videos, paid media, and, are you 24/7, 12/7, 12/5, and reputation management all come in if you follow a process. I'll come to a close quickly. I mean, when you're doing things like listening, analytics, planning, viral reach tracking, engagement, it really is, one part is new thinking, but the more important part is new technology. You really can't do this without really relooking at your technology investments. So for one of the clients you see on a daily basis, you have a heat map of what is being talked about for the brand, literally on a daily basis. Here's another different heat map that says, here are the topics. There's red for negative chatter, green for positive chatter, gray for neutral chatter. On a live basis, you're seeing how the chatter about your brand changes shape, takes shape every single day. In this case, you're seeing the value of the chatter. What is the value of the green, the positive chatter, the value of the negative chatter, the value of the neutral chatter? You can see there's 2 crores worth of value, positive value that has been generated for this brand in that month. So you can actually quantify the value of the conversations out there. You can also track not just your negatives, but the negatives of your rivals to figure out, okay, where did we may have gone wrong, but where did the others go wrong? You can track sentiments. This is another brand where on a month-to-month basis, you can see that it went from largely negative to largely positive. You can figure out Facebook engagement levels. We'll talk more about that later. Right? I'll end on 1 or 2 points. I mean, one of the key issues that brands are facing today is that the advertising agency system is a little inept. Ad agencies broke into creative agencies and media buying agencies about 20 years ago. Creative agencies make their money from flat fees, but mostly make it from television commercial kind of, margins. A TVC may cost you 1 crore, but it costs the agency 10 lakhs. So there's 80, 90 lakhs of margin there. Or they make it on what's called overriding commissions from a media agency. You might spend 100 crores. The media agency is probably taking 7, 8 crores back in commission that you don't know about. So these are 2 standard practices that the actual advertising agency, that's the backbone of the agency business today. In digital, both of these are problematic. The largest media in India, Google and Facebook, are transparent and don't do kickbacks. So many agencies don't recommend them because they're not able to make money from these 2 media. Second, a commercial on YouTube costs you 4 or 5 lakhs versus 1 crore. So there isn't really enough fat. So for a lot of agencies, it's a complete re-engineering because the way they made money in the past television era is not how they can make money in this particular digital era. The challenge is not just on the agency side. Facebook is really a big challenge. In the last 3 months, it's become largely a bigger challenge for us. Maybe it's the stock price, maybe it's revenue pressure. Earlier, the visibility of a post was 80%. That means 80% of your fans, up to 80% of your fans could see your post. That's come down to 12%. That means when you post today, 7 out of 8 fans will not see your post at all. Even the little handles you have for virality, which is posts, comments, likes, shares, tags. Post, comments, and likes are now things that they don't count, only shares and tags. But the thing is, a brand can't share, a brand can't tag. So essentially, the power has been taken away from the brand because obviously Facebook wants to make money from you. So it's becoming harder and you have to rethink very deeply how your brand has to manage its presence on Facebook because you got onto Facebook, hoping for this huge social virality, but it's actually being pulled away from you. So you have to think more of this as a platform where your users interact because they can share, track, and tag with each other, though you can't share, track, and tag with them. And I'll end with just one sobering thought. Where is Orkut today? It was once the king of India. Where is MySpace today? It was once the king of the world. Where will Facebook be 2 years from now? Social networks follow a life cycle. So this is an interesting life cycle. You'll see that, Orkut has already fallen off. Nobody goes there anymore. Facebook has started its decline in the US. It will still hit its peak in India. Maybe it will start declining in a year from now. LinkedIn is at a flat. YouTube is almost at the top. And there are other things which are rising. So where do you make your investments? Where do you put your content? If all your fans are on Facebook, what happens 2 years from now if a Facebook was to go away or if a LinkedIn was to go away? So, it's a sobering thought saying, should you control the fans and should you control the content yourself or should you leave it elsewhere? I think we'll discuss these and other issues. My name is Mahesh. I hope that was interesting and fire starting. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Mahesh, and I think that sort of sets the standard, sort of the background to the entire conversation. True to the subject, we will try to have a different format here. We will not have a one way where the panel is speaking and you guys are listening. We would like to go the conversation route. So what we will try to do here is, throughout the conversation, we will try to have an engagement, which means that we will, your questions can come even during the subject topic, and that's why we have already requested the infrastructure guys to have microphones floating around. But to be fair to the limited time that we have, what we will try and do is try to limit, we will have a slightly structured way of the topics that we will cover, and we will keep closing topics one by one. So I think this whole thing of how do you get started on the social media, and finally, in the light of the challenges in the current situation where Facebook no more remains a free ride and the life cycle of social media, and therefore what are the responsibilities of any brand or retailer to be in the social media space. So I'll invite some members of the panel to start talking about it. Ellen, why don't you sort of just sort of help us through?
Can harm your brand much more than it could help your brand. So making sure that you have a proper strategy in place, lay the foundation layer, I would say. It's like anything you build, you need to have a proper foundation before you get started out there. So
right.
I think, yeah.
And Kaustav, you were talking about the whole content and conversations.
Once you actually started out, you've set sail on the journey of social media, it's very important to understand that social media is a two-way dialogue. It's not really like conventional media where we've been usually talking to the consumer. Here you're talking with them. So it's essential to actually understand the kind of content that will get you feedback from them. So there are two ways to do this. The first one is on your own platforms that you have adopted. What you do is try and ask people, try and involve them rather than just disseminating information, telling them. There are only so many people who care about autumn-winter being launched in stores. You've got to preempt the big so that forms in the consumer's mind. I mean, so what? So you tell them what to do with it, you show them celebrities who are wearing it, you ask them how they would style it. The other thing to do is possibly tie up with, what we like to call friends of the brand. Get that network started so you can start conversations there. So I could talk about maybe the Facebook feed of a fashion publication like the Vogue Facebook page, or a celebrity Twitter feed, or a blog with many visitors. These are the kind of things that we need to be on so that more and more people start talking about your brand.
Thanks, Kaustav. We also, Mahesh in his presentation had spoken about the elements of search, social, video and mobile. And would anyone of you, let's say, Vinay, would you like to also talk about at Shoppers Stop, how do you sort of...
Yeah, I think Mahesh touched on an interesting fact, that 12% number. I'm sure you guys picked it up. Somebody says 15, somebody says 16. It's more like an average. I'm told, and Mahesh, you can correct me, that the algorithm which Facebook has set up involves 3 criteria for posting. So one is the affinity, so how much a person is involved with your brand. The important one is this, I believe heaviness is what they call it, the size of the material that you put up. And in that sense, videos become the very important way of engaging. Now, one of the things we are doing, some of you might be fans on our page. We have a very large page, about 3.65 million fans on Facebook. What we are trying to do is we realize that people need to be informed about fashion, and like Kaustav rightly said, they don't want to know about autumn winter. Yeah, but there is some amount of autumn winter we do range also. So what we are doing is we are creating about 30-40 videos, and like Mahesh said, it isn't the earlier days where agencies charged you $1 crore. It's 80,000 bucks, you can make a really nice video. So we're making videos on things like how to tie a tie, for example, or what dress matches with what, and simple fashion tips. Of course, the part which is involving the brand is there towards the end, and you could click and actually buy that tie off. But it's not really a selling video. It's more of a information. So I think video content is going to be big. And I thought, one of the things just to touch on is this whole negative side of Facebook. So how many of you know about the worm in the chicken? The worm in the chicken with the fast food chain? Quite a lot of people, right? How many of you have heard of the MSG problem with KFC? Actually, this happened in 1995. One person knows that there. There was no Facebook that time. But today, when a leading car manufacturer talks about, was it vibrators, Mahesh? Yeah? It gets viral really, really fast. So for all the brands sitting out there, and it's not in my place to advise you guys, but be really, really careful about what you put out there, because it's not like a TV ad and a print ad. You really can't go too badly wrong in that. In the case of Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn, and what have you, you can go badly wrong. So
Sure.
just a little bit word of caution.
We also have Rahul with us, who can actually touch upon, and he's a SME here. He started Beer Cafe, a product that we all love, and how he has only used social media and how it has helped him set up his enterprise.
Hi, good afternoon. First of all, thanks Mahesh for what you did. You're a guru of, social media, so I really admire and honored to be on the same stage as yours. So, beer is a social drink. So, without any ado, you have to obviously use social media. We also have challenges of, beer is considered liquor in India for some reason, not across the world, but in India. So the liquor policies actually prohibit you from using different kind of advertising. So social it is, because there is this gray line which nobody knows what you can do on social media, because advertising still is, somebody's not yet covered it in the government. Nobody's hearing me, hopefully. So I'm just, it's not been covered. So we can actually advertise alcohol technically that way. So that's one part. But, on the social side to it, obviously it's very relevant to the demographics we have. Legally speak, I have to say it's about 25, but, it's in that range of 20s that we have people consuming our product. It's a simple product. And if you have to romance that product, the only way you can do this is by actually talking about the product to the people. So we got, let's say, 54 beers. So that's a lot of conversations we can have, and they're exciting beers. And beer is a very exciting product in any case. So there are two ways conversation. But where we are facing challenges, because I'm saying Facebook is a must. So let's not talk whether you need to be there. How are you going to manage it? Just having a Facebook page, I don't think is doing justice.
Right.
What you're going to do with Facebook page, it's not just on your website, you got a little blue link. What you're going to do about it, we have two people, we have a very small team, we're just 5. Out of them, 2 people, that's including me and another colleague of mine, dedicated to the social media on a daily basis. 24/7, like what Mahesh said, is the call. You cannot say, okay, if today Saturday, Sunday, I'm not going to do it. Saturday, Sunday, your traffic is highest. Right. You have to be on it. So if you are there, be serious about Facebook. Don't just do it because you need to just go into a board presentation and says, I've got 2 million people on my page. What are they doing there? That's more important. So be serious on Facebook. We do have challenges of, like now with Facebook pulling out, not having a lot of people actually seeing your post, which we didn't know. Now that you're an admin of a Facebook page, you start seeing how many people are seeing. So they want to make their money, so you have to now promote, so you have to spend dollars. There's no free lunch, basically. You need to really manage your content very well and relevantly, like everybody said. So it's very challenging. It's not easy at all.
Yeah, so that brings us to the entire content strategy that finally it is not only about the medium here, but about how is your content very enriching, how it engages with the consumers. Mahesh, would you like to throw something on that aspect?
Till a few months ago, many of the brands that we worked with, we worked on the kind of belief that Facebook is a place where people come and it's our job to show them content. So it's almost like an advertising medium. This is a place where we place an ad, they look at it, they like it, they might not like it. Increasingly, we're finding that this approach has, at least since the month of May, June, July, when the entire big tweak happened, virality, viral reach, everything has really dropped through the floor. And we've now figured out that we have to rethink the way we look at content out here. So with most of the places, we now relook, the kind of analogy we use is that a brand's Facebook page is like your clubhouse or like your building. Your fans are the people who come sit there. Your job is to provide the infrastructure, the architecture, the stage, the backdrop, and occasionally interject in the conversation. But really your job is to make sure that people out there are talking and sharing with each other. It's a very different way of looking at it from looking at it as a 2D advertising medium, but think of it in 3D as an architectural place. Now figure out, because now, I was just talking about one of the brands just a couple of hours ago. I was just briefing the creative team saying we need to think like Archie's, or Hallmark, the greeting card company, where it's not our brand on top. We have a very small brand on the back cover of the card, but we need to create a card that he's going to pick up and send to 50 people. So it can't be about my brand. It may just have my brand's logo in the corner. So you really have to think very differently. You have to be a host of conversations and of other people's conversations, but you can't really be the conversationalist very much. So it's a complete change in thinking.
Thanks. So at this stage, on the thing of content strategy and sort of what are the basics of a digital or a social media strategy. Any questions that you would like to ask the panel? Any thoughts that you all may have? As I said, it is a conversation, not a one-way. So just raise your hand and the microphone will reach you, and you can just tell us who you are, and you can, if there's a specific person that you want to ask a question to.
One challenge we often face as a small company and e-commerce companies is sort of, do we manage this in-house? Do we sort of get sort of SMO kind of expertise to do it? And obviously there's content that's specific to us that sort of the internal team can manage, but then there are a lot of tricks there about the kind of engagement that you're talking about. So any comments there?
Anybody would like to take it?
Any of you, all of you.
I'll take a small shot at it. At least with the companies that I invest in and I fund, I'm very hardcore that the expertise should be inside the company. He runs Beer Cafe, he does it. I've invested in one of his rivals, a brewery called Doolally, which has entirely been built on social media, I can tell you that. You know, they announce an event, 200 people go from Bombay every day in Pune for the event. There's, you know, you can't really unless you're a very large brand, you have 1 million plus fans or 500,000 plus fans, and even there you have to do a lot of separate customer service, brand, legal, etc., etc. That's when you can really begin to afford a lot of the, the real social media expertise, which will cost you in the lakhs per month, just in terms of fees. Till then, I would really assume that you, the brand owner, the CEO, have to you have to breathe social media, and you need to find somebody else like you, some younger person with a lot of enthusiasm, or at least young thinking person who runs it. When it becomes too large for you, then you can outsource specific things. You can outsource the video creation to somebody else. You can outsource parts of it. But I don't think you should let it go. I mean, social media is much like your brand. You don't really let the brand go very easily.
Yes, Vinay.
Yeah, just to add to what Mahesh said, you really need to take a call about insourcing, outsourcing. Since you mentioned e-com, and we run our own e-com site. I mean, we have brick and mortar. Very small part of our business is e-com. But the second largest e-com traffic provider for us is Facebook. So, from your perspective, this could be really, really large. And we see much better quality of conversions from Facebook traffic than on many of the other, paid channel feeds.
Yeah, and just to share our own experience at Tanishq also, we started the journey 2 years back. The 2-3 things that we had to be careful, and with the agency it's always a challenge, where the brand personality has to be through in the tonality of whatever you say. So it couldn't be a cool and hip language that a Facebook post should have. So getting that out of, as Mahesh is saying, you have to be onto it. So if it meant that each and every member of the team was on the Facebook page to look at posts and what is being responded to, ensuring that your turnaround time on the comments are very fast and genuinely engaging, and not just thank you, we'll get back to you kind of a comment. So it's very important that you live to the brand personality and you create content which is very meaningful. And it's very important that way. Any other thoughts here? Somebody else would like to share on the whole thing on content and...
Mahesh, my name is Anand.
Yeah.
I just wanted to take on the last point where you just said that going forward, the relevance of the brand.
Can we have
Can
the
you
lights
stand
up?
up, Anand?
We don't need, apart from a few other people, we're not very good looking people on stage. So I think, we can all see each other.
Yeah, sure. You said that going forward, you need to be like the greeting card, where the relevance of the brand will become immensely less, and you try to give n number of services around. So if the relevance of the brand keeps on decreasing over a period of time, what benefit would the brand get eventually if it is going to cater to customers by giving huge amount of services, and the customer cannot relate to the brand eventually?
It's a good question. I mean, the context in which I'd said about, first of all, the greeting card analogy was apt for one particular consumer product brand, which is about, joy and happiness and so on and so forth. I'd use a different analogy, different kind of analogy for different brands. The idea there was, how do you still grow virally? And essentially, the only two things that work virally today on Facebook are shares and tags. So essentially, you can't share, you can't tag as a brand. You have to create something that your fans can share and tag. So what is it that you can create so look at it yourself. If you're on Facebook, what did you share lately? What have you tagged somebody else in lately? Now, can your brand produce such content that somebody else can share? Now, imagine, for example, that I was a brand and I create a really highly branded content. You're not going to share it. You're going to say, why should I promote his brand? So actually I'm going to actually subsume and bring my brand kind of down, still get you goodwill. And you say, yeah, that's nice enough message that I can share with my friends. We all as human beings have, we really don't like promoting other people's brands that much. We're happy to promote a message that identifies with us personally. Right? So these are memes. I mean, so if you're creating some kind of social meme, you don't want a big brand on it. So you can have a simple, a message in line with the brand, but if you make it very branded, it just won't get shared. If you want heavily branded messages, there is the other option. You pay. Pay Facebook, pay whoever you want, get the visibility you want. So this is a choice, between how much you want to pay and how much you want to get virally.
Deepti, at this stage, would you like to share how a mall, and Deepti, you're from Ambience Mall, how does the content strategy and what kind of posts and how are you engaging with your visitors in the social media?
The social media for a mall is an extension of the human face to all the millions and billions of people who visit us and who patronize us. It gives us an opportunity to sort of provide a platform to all the consumers, one consolidated platform. Now, typically what happens is brand A is talking about their promotions. Similarly, say for example, on this panel, we have a beer cafe in the mall, we have a Shoppers Stop in the mall, and similarly, a Tommy Hilfiger. So basically, we are consolidating everything that they have to offer, adding to it what the mall is doing, and sort of creating a post which is something, maybe in 10 seconds, you're done with what you'll do in the mall. So it's basically an extension of a personal extension to all the consumers in the mall.
So we have been very late to the social media. Okay. Like, somebody was asking a question, when is the time, you rightly answered. We found that, the normal, we employed the best of the agencies, but they are not able to deliver what we wanted as far as the social networking community. So we had to go for somebody, very specialized. And we are a large spender in tracing and this thing. The one insight what we had is definitely, it has helped us in terms of engaging the customer. Like he said rightly, it's a two-way process. In a typical advertising, what happens, it's a one-way. I keep on, dumping the thing, what I wanted to with the customer. But this is one platform where we are able to see the response. When we run certain campaigns, I am able to see on the day one itself how successful is my campaign going to be. It gave me, for example, we ran some, a season sale. The very first day we had close to about, 96,000 hits on YouTube. That very day we decided that this is going to be big and, we were able to, prepare ourselves better. So that instant, had it been a TV campaign, it would have taken me at least a week or 10 days to understand how the traffic is building up. In this case, it was quite instantaneous. So that way I think, this has been very, very useful and we are learning still.
Yes.
But definitely we needed somebody who's, like you said, a lot of expertise is required. A normal agency is not able to provide that. They may be the best of creative agencies, but we found in our experience that they have not been able to provide, what you wanted in the social media. So we have to engage somebody, very specialized in that. Yeah. And it involves a lot of analytics.
And it is a big mindset change. Actually, even in the organization, we all had to also undergo a lot of mindset change because finally, the content strategy it can't be the effort that and the turnaround time on a TV commercial, suppose, is, let's say, almost 20 to 30 days, whereas this content strategy in terms of video will have to be instant and quickly. That's something that we were discussing. Moving on, also social media as a listening mechanism, and what role is it, can it play, and is it playing in the complaint management system? For example, in Tanishq, almost 10 to 15%, and you can see it increasing, 10 to 15% of our complaints that we receive actually comes from Facebook, and therefore the responsibility to be able to respond to it genuinely, not only just we'll get back to you, but genuinely responding to it and ensuring that the issue gets resolved. So in terms of, Vinay, would you like to share your experience at Shoppers Stop? How are you responding to issues?
Yeah, I would say two parts of the listening. We also, like Tanishq, get a lot of complaints, compliments, suggestions in store. And all of them are actually, just like you guys, is captured. So I would say two parts of it. One is, complaints and how to manage those on the net. And I think I gave you a couple of examples of where companies may have messed it up a little bit. I think this is a very dicey medium Be really careful in terms of how you, address issues. I think probably the thumb rule here is that be as transparent and quick as possible, and be as genuine as possible as you can. I think the other part, which is the feedback which comes, which need not be complaint, but could be a suggestion that why don't you make this store wheelchair friendly or mall, disabled friendly. We get a whole lot of suggestions of that kind, and we've seen the minute we've acted on it and we've talked about it on the Facebook, it gets us a lot of goodwill going. So listening in terms of improving your products, product development. We've got people talking about what they are looking from a New Year range, and we actually inputted that into a product range. So I think there's a lot of that part which listening can come in with.
Sure. Ellie, anything that you would like to add on to this? Sorry, Mahesh, you also.
So I'd like to add, maybe two dimensions to what Vijay was saying. One is, don't underestimate, the amount and quantum of listening. For India's largest bank, 2-3 years ago when we started working, we were seeing about 200 mentions a day. Today it's up to 7,000 mentions a day on an average. For India's largest telecom company, we started about 600-700 mentions a day 2 years ago. Today we are at 15,000 mentions a day. In a month, we manage 500,000 mentions. This is not a BPO thing. These 15,000 mentions every day across 7 days of the week, you've got to use some amount of technology to be able to figure out, okay, what's the sentiment, what's the visibility, what's the topicality, and then use some rules to say, okay, float up the worst sentiment, the highest visibility, and the most critical topics, and answer that fast. The second thing is really, the flip side of this, which is, I was talking to a senior person at a large multinational bank and talking about why they should do this. And they said, we have a fiduciary responsibility that if I take cognizance of an issue, that means I have to solve it. So he says, I don't want to go in social media because I don't want to take cognizance of the issue. Right? So I don't think that bank is going to last very long in this country today. For a lot of customers, they're tired of being on IVR and saying press 1, press 2, press 3, wait in line. They're saying, just tweet it, you'll get answered. So the thinking out here is a lot of marketing managers and brand owners are saying, why should I get into this for me to get slammed at? What if people start criticizing me? The dynamics, the way it works is a little like this. So I use this as an example. Let's say I was not in the room. All of you can take a field day on me criticizing me and say, Mahesh is X and Pinstorm is X and blah, 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 blah. Let's say I quietly walk into the room and say, hi guys, how are you? Immediately, the tenor of the conversation changes. It becomes polite, and if you have a grouse, it's fairly presented. So, I'm just saying, you have to do the online equivalent of that. Be virtually present in every room. And every room is not just social. And don't just depend on Google. Google picks up only less than 0.5% of the mentions about your brand. Use specialized tools, So if you're getting X mentions on Google, multiply by 200. That's the actual number of mentions of your brand. So go to places like, Consumer Court, Consumer Forum, Facebook, etc. There's about 200, 300 places that people talk about you. Make sure you pick up stuff, respond to it. The first thing you need to do is to say, look, I've heard you, I'll get back to you later. Why is that important? Let's say he has a complaint with my product. It's not just important to assuage him. It's more important to assuage the 1,000 other people who are looking at this conversation between us. They should say, yeah, there was a service deficiency, but you know what? The brand is working on rectifying it. So you may rectify it later, but it's really important to come back and say, I've taken cognizance, I'll take care of it, and actually take the issue offline. So these are 2-3 things I'd just add.
And as a retailer, there will be even, apart from just the product, the service aspect of it, the service complaints, I was not handled well. All those things will also come up. And it's not a choice. It's not a choice, because even if you choose not to be there, but people are talking about it. There are multiple platforms where people are talking about it, and we have to respond. So I think that's, any thoughts, any points that you all would like to share, anything that you would like to ask on this listening mechanism? Yes, please. Microphone that side, please. Lady there. Yes.
Hi. I would like, Stan. I would like to ask, why is it that brands don't try to have an in-house? Why don't you have somebody from your, since you're saying there is a problem that the agencies are not able to understand your brand and they are not able to deliver what you want. Why is it that you can't have someone in-house doing it? Because I was working with an agency and I myself had that issue that there was a turnaround period problem. Every post that I wanted to tweet or I wanted to put up on Facebook, I had to go through a big tedious procedure. People wouldn't reply to my emails from the brand side. So facing these issues, why can't you hire someone specifically for your brand in your company?
Yeah, actually the topic was raised by the gentleman also, and we are saying that slowly and gradually you have to have it inside. You have to have building up an internal capability to be able to monitor it and manage it and respond to it in time. So that is definitely the way forward. In some cases you need an initial hand-holding for somebody to tell you on how to manage this, and that's very important. Any other thoughts on the... Yes, please.
Yeah, I have a comment actually. I'm a big fan of Facebook, but on the other hand, the number of pages that I've liked of Indian retailers, and the problem is that majority of these retailers are sending me 20, 30 posts a day. It's, at a point, it's off-putting. And to a point where I stopped now looking at those pages, I've started not liking them anymore. And it's not even a question, but where's the balance? I know you guys have lots of things you want to say about different things that you're doing, but you can't put the customer off by overkill.
Right. So I think before I hand over to Mahesh, I think our experience at Tanishq was it is a balance. As retailers, you can't bombard. You have to have, and we actually tried and we stuck to just 4 to 5 comments from our side. Whereas and we only have 2.5 lakhs, but very engaged customers, where the conversation around it is around 7,000 people are talking and sharing, and some 30, 40, 100 comments on the page. But from the brand side, we restricted it to just 3 or 4.
So actually, the only color I can add to that is that, yeah, if there are people doing 20, that's way too much. If you go to Facebook, they'll tell you officially the recommendations do 1 a week. Basically means, pay us a lot of money. So you'll have to find your own balance. The challenge is that now that we know that the average visibility is 12%, 13%, and we do only 1 post a day or 2 posts a day, we know, that you will probably get to see 1% of our fan base. So we try to figure out what is the optimal time and what is the optimal type of post at what time of the day and what day of the week to figure out. But certainly, I wouldn't recommend to brands to go more than 3 or 4 posts a day. I don't know if you've...
No, I agree.
Yeah, absolutely. And Zulfi, just to answer your question further, I think that, like DND happened in SMS. Yeah, for both of us were impacted by it. A lot of the mobile, Facebook has done your DND for you. So as long as I think there are 3 criteria. One is affinity, the other is heaviness of video, and the third is recency. And as long as you don't like those bad posts, rest assured you won't be, So keep liking the brand pages in any case, Zulfi.
So, but at this stage, I would like to ask Rahul, who's only on social media, how many posts and how much do you engage on the Facebook?
We do 1 a day. And I think like I said, it's a challenging thing because of the new algorithm that Facebook has built in. And we know a lot of fans would not read it and would not be able to see the post. Not that we don't want them to, but it's just how the system works. But one thing that we've realized is that, like Mahesh had said, it's the relevance of your communication. I don't want to just throw something out. It needs to be so relevant. Thankfully for the product that we have, beer is a very witty product. There is a little humor and a sexier side to it. So people like to share it. Yeah. We've had certain posts shared 100 times. I can't tell you the amount of, let's say, I don't know analytics of that well, but I know that 100 shares, it's like if I keep blowing my own trumpet, it's not going to be. But if I keep talking about somebody else, that marketing is far superior than what I'm going to tell about myself. It's always the other guys. So that share, if some way we can create a content, even if it's 1 a day, and people share it, my day is done.
So the meaningful content.
Yeah, I'm not talking about likes. I don't even look at likes. I just want people to share. That is very important. And that's what he says. Why would you like to share somebody else's brand till you love it? And not everybody will love you in any case. So it's something beyond, basic post.
Kaustubh, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, I was basically saying that more than the frequency of posting, it's really like Rahul is saying about the content that you generate. There are some brands that, I think give a mandate to their agency that you must keep me visible at a certain frequency. So you will see brands saying, if you like fashion, click like, or a picture of a kitten saying, thank God it's Friday. It makes no sense. when you have something to say and you know that it'll resonate with your audience, only then say it. I mean, it's not really about how many times you get seen, but the engagement you offer.
So it is not a like-based strategy, actually. It has to be content-based strategy. I think we all are retailers here, and finally, so therefore, how do we integrate this whole thing called social media with our brick-and-mortar stores? And that is also an important aspect that we all need to understand. And I thought, Vinay, would you like to something? How do we integrate what we do in the stores and with what we are doing on the social media? That's an important subject.
Yeah, I'll quickly touch upon, I think, 3 examples of some of the learnings that we have in this area. A year and a half back, we turned 1 million fans on Facebook, and it was a big deal. We cut a cake in office and stuff like that. And we sent out a voucher to all our 1 million fans, and we said, come to the store on this weekend. It was a Saturday, Sunday, and you show this voucher and you get X rupees off. We got 10,000 people, which you might say 10,000 divided by 1 million is peanuts, but we were really happy to see 10,000 people coming in, purchasing. We did 2 crores of incremental sale that weekend through Facebook. So, okay, we felt good. We said, okay, maybe, this is just not a fancy engagement medium. There is some dollars at the end of this rainbow. Recent times, what we've done from a perspective of integration is that, we launched something called a most fashionable profile picture on Facebook. Did very well, but we figured, can we integrate this to our store? So along with one of our fashion brands, we have iPads in the store now where we click a picture of you in that brand's merchandise. So you go, you pick the merchandise, and you get a chance, of course, to win that. And from the store itself, you can share it to your friends, and they can press like, and you can decide whether you want to buy it. And the third quick one is something I read in today's one of the papers, the want button in lieu of the like button. And I think from retailers' perspective, engagement, yes, is very important, but can I take that engagement into as much closer to transaction, will be even nicer. And I think that want button, if it does come in, and if you can link your e-commerce well with Facebook, I think that would be a great way of integrating our business, not just the store.
Please, Mike.
So if I can add something, I was having a discussion with one of the CEOs of one of my investee companies yesterday. This is a pure retail apparel e-commerce only company. It may be interesting to a few of you. So we were looking at cost per acquisition in terms of per sale, and we managed to bring it down all the way from 1,500 rupees to some 600-700 rupees cost per acquisition. And I was just trying to say, we've got 50,000 odd fans. We know that this percentage of them buy every month, but we need to keep pumping money into Facebook to make this happen. And we just sat back and said, let's try something. So last week, all we did was we put a little Facebook Connect button, and we also put a little email thing on the website saying, give us your email address, we'll give you 100 rupee or 150 rupee coupon off. And that coupon was personal, so you couldn't share it. Only you could use it. And the interesting thing is we got a lot of people coming back, more than the typical Facebook percentage, to use that coupon. And we figured out that where we were paying 700 rupees per acquisition, we now brought it down to 150 rupees, which is the cost of the coupon itself, right? So I just mean this to say, you must put social media in perspective. Don't go gaga goo. It's not the answer to world pollution and world peace and stuff like that. It's getting more expensive, and at any point in time, look at it with everything else. Look at it against email. Look at it against SMS. Look at it against everything else out there. It is not the only tool out there. You may find something else which may be a little smarter to use. Yeah,
so, Ellen, any example from the international retailer space where retailers have integrated social media very well with the brick and mortar?
Well, I think people are very visual nowadays, and I think Pinterest, I just want to bring up Pinterest, is the fastest growing social media at this particular moment, where you as an online retail store, you have your product, pin it, make sure you have a share button obviously on your site, which is crucial because you do want people to share your content. And I think that, what they do, you create the lists, and then I want it, or I want to buy it for later, and your friends see it, it comes up. It's really a crucial way of getting people to buy your stuff and to see your stuff as well. And it's all about pull marketing, not push marketing. You don't want people to advertise yourself. Like now, if there's an advertisement in a magazine or it could be a social media, only maybe 30% will actually like it, or buy your stuff. But if you do get your friends to like it, or any of you bought a new phone, why did you buy that particular one? Was it because your friend recommended it to you, or was it because you saw an advertisement somewhere? So I think, changing the strategy to be more the pull marketing, where you get people involved, give them a reason to share what you have to do. Sure. It could be your product, could be, even if it's brick and mortar business as well, have competitions, have, I like this and you'll get the discount like you were doing. This was a brilliant idea getting it, because then, first of all, you get the email addresses of the people that you can communicate with later, because it's also communicating with them, then you can get more customers out of it as well. Sure. And giving away stuff for free, create a big, almost like a bank of internal content that, you set a policy for your employees. Hey guys, I want you to be involved in what we're doing, but this is the guidelines for you to use it. Share this on Twitter, share this on LinkedIn, on Facebook, or whatever platform you are, but that they know what to share. So it's a unity of the brand out to the public.
Sure. Yeah. And Deepti also initially had mentioned about how engagement activities at the mall were being, and social media was very used seamlessly to talk about it. Now, how you used social media, and malls have used social media to communicate about and connect with the catchment about what's the next thing happening in the mall and what all can you do in the mall over the weekend.
True. It's extremely important because every individual has a definite emotional connect with the mall per se. They patronize a mall and they go there all the time that they can find spare in their hands. So we have to reach out to them emotionally. We have to. It is an appraisal form for the mall to better us, and so I guess it is a definitive, interesting solution and an interesting medium to connect with people of all age groups, because now Facebook is popular in all age groups. So, but important is to keep tab on what's new, because we know that Facebook will not be there forever, and there's a definitive life cycle. So we definitely have to keep tab on what's next and keep evolving and keep upgrading ourselves to better us.
Thank you. Any thoughts? Yes, please.
My question is to Mahesh. I was kind of stuck on the last slide that you had mentioned that be careful of your assets and investments. Facebook may not be forever. It is already on the decline. I was trying to take a modest, tiny little shot at my end to kind of understand that slide and maybe the reason for the decline of a couple of these sites that you mentioned: Orkut, MySpace, Facebook. And this is my little understanding of that. When an online entity wants to become everything to everybody, for example, Facebook, Orkut, MySpace allows you to upload links, photographs, videos, status messages, XYZ. It gets into an area where it zooms up and then there's a decline there. However, the sites that are steadily growing has some amount of niche in them, whether it is Twitter microblogging or LinkedIn networking / jobs / employment kind of a niche, or YouTube, which is only a niche for video. So for a brand, would it kind of make sense to kind of invest in these steadily growing niche, slight little niche social media versus taking a shot at a Facebook or a Orkut, which is like a fast grow but fast blow away kind of stuff?
It's a good question. I mean, at least today for the brands that we work with in Southeast Asia, we look at least 30 different social networks to be on. And all of them, at least in India, have user bases of more than 100,000 per month each. While Facebook is at 61 million and YouTube is at 36 million monthlies. So these are the big daddies, but there's still, Pinterest is at 650,000, for instance. And there are particular niches. So if you'd seen that slide, and it's not an original, it's basically, that, what we tell our brands is, this is where you want to wait. You want to wait and watch. So we know certainly Pinterest is now getting more interesting. Specifically, for example, a lot of Pinterest demographic is female, affluent, 25-40. Right? This is a key demographic for fashion, apparel, technology, and so and so, and many other categories, right? So we know that it's getting important out here. So what we would say is, in your budget, don't just say that this has to go to Google, Facebook, and LinkedIn. You keep a certain part, maybe 10%, 15%, and try some stuff in these places. The nice thing is if it doesn't work, it's okay. You haven't lost a lot of money. But if it works, you can actually ride the wave and you can be one of the pioneers in that place. And the key thing is, I mean, I think she said it well, to understand the mortality. We all live, we all die. Networks will all live and networks will all die, except the networks seem to be dying at faster rates than us. So, you know, every 2 years there is a next big thing. 4 years ago, Orkut was the next big thing. Then Facebook was the next big thing. And today, Twitter is the next big thing. Something else will be the next big thing. So control your assets. For example, we tell our clients, you know, host your videos on your site and embed them on Facebook and elsewhere, rather than embedding them, then hosting them there, because if they're gone, right? So own your customers. The other thing is, for example, he has 3.65 million fans, but he doesn't know who they are. So Facebook is actually a really large mailing list where it gets your fans and takes them away and charges you to contact your own fans. If that's okay with you, fine. But you must, as a retailer, you know, always be saying, okay, how can I get my fan IDs? How can I get their names? How can I get their phone numbers and email addresses for myself? Because day after tomorrow, this platform may not be there. Right? So you have to look at this judiciously and say, I'm going to try a little bit out here. I'm going to try the niche. So if it's women, affluent, there's a particular set of sites. If it's travelers, there's a different set of sites. If it's technoholics, there's a different set of sites. So at least 30, 35 networks worth looking at for one reason or the other.
Sure. Just to add to that quickly, you know, we also run a loyalty program which is fairly large. What we are trying to do, and it's a struggle, frankly, we haven't been able to crack this as yet, but basically trying to figure out of our 3.6 million, we also separately have a first citizen base of 2.7 million. And I'm sure there is a 30, 40, 50% overlap. And once we can do that deduping, you know, and we're working with a couple of people on solutions there, then I think we'll do what Mahesh is saying. At least 20, 30% of the base you will know. You will know his purchase pattern, you'll know everything about him. And then it turns into a, you know, asset which you can continue leveraging, whether Facebook exists, or, you know, or not.
Yeah, that's always a challenge, even in Tanishq we face that, how to integrate your loyalty member base versus with your Facebook fan base. Any other question with integration with retail? Yes, we have a couple of hands. Please.
The question is related to this topic. As of now, are you able to contrast between new fans versus, say, let's say six months or more in terms of their engagement or how you respond to them?
Any specific person you would like to ask?
I think this applies to all the entire panel.
I'll just... Today, you have to use a specific app to figure out who's visiting your page, because Facebook doesn't tell you who. It gives you numbers, right? So you'll have to actually create an app and, you know, so we basically write software to figure out who's visiting the page. So there's no standard way to do that unless there's something.
One way you can do this, if we've attempted, is you can do offline market research kind of study. So for example, we along with our agency did a study across 8 big brands, including ours, and to figure out who is the kind of person. Luckily, we found out that about 70% of our sample, because we couldn't go to 3.6 million people, we probably did 5,000 people, but 70% of them were Shoppers Stop shoppers. So which was heartening. So you can do stuff like that, which will give you an estimate of sorts, or you go the app way, which Mahesh suggested, which will tell you who's coming. Which will accurately tell you.
So I have a question.
Can I, because there are 2-3 more topics which we felt as retailers we need to discuss, and we can keep discussing the questions. As retailers, one of the interesting challenges to localize, because finally you have brick and mortars across various cities, across various locations. Each has a certain catchment that you would want to interact with. So therefore the challenge of localization is a big one. And how do you use social media in that space? And I think let's ask Rahul, because finally he's a localized player. He's based out of Gurgaon. And how, as an SME, is he trying to use this?
Look, in our case, like I said, Facebook is a good eyeball, but you need to convert into footfall, otherwise there's nothing that we're left to do. So we really need people to come in and drink the beer. Now, the challenge we have is we are a multi-location, it's a chain, and it's going to be 15 in the next 5 months. So how do we actually then localize the content? Because there would be challenges of a particular brand not available in a particular state because of whatever reasons. So how do you localize that? Now, Facebook doesn't have that. Facebook just demerged the page and places in July. So you could actually create a place and then merge it into a page. But they don't have a tool yet to merge different pages yet. Okay, Foursquare does it very well. So Foursquare, you can actually have different, every location is a different tag, And then you can have a master group tag, which you can post upon as a master tag if you want to, or you basically just go to that particular location and do a special for that location. So for example, we opened Connaught Place. We needed traffic there, just we opened. So we created a Foursquare for that place and started doing an offer. So the customer is actually now using it, because when he comes in and checks in Foursquare, he gets a coupon there and there at that time, real time. That's the, benefit he gets, or that's the special he gets there. But he doesn't get that in Gurgaon because that's been done for 6 months. So I'm just saying there are tools beyond Facebook. So Foursquare is a very good one, which is working pretty well for us. And it works well. And then people start owning it. There's somebody becomes a badge owner, then somebody becomes a mayor of your place. So I have a mayor of my place, which I own actually. So it's like, wow, that's good. People are interacting on their own. So that's a very big thing.
Nice. Mr. Rasmus, you were talking about something, how localization, and you had done a certain specific activity around Adi.
Festivals in India is such a diverse place. We have some festivals specific only for a particular state, like Adi is a big thing in Tamil Nadu. So we were able to run a campaign and find effectiveness. But at the same time, we also found it difficult when I get from outside the catchment area. How do I react to that? So that has been a kind of a challenge, which he was rightly pointing out. We still don't have a tool by which we'll be able to filter it, be specific to a particular catchment area. If I have a store, because we have over 400 stores, if I want to target some specific stores, I still find it difficult to target only for that particular area. The tools are yet to, we are able to still figure out how to do that. Very location-specific Facebook campaigns or LinkedIn campaigns. That's been one of the challenges we have been facing.
Also, one aspect of, since we are retailers, this whole tier 2 and the tier 3 opportunity, because we have markets in non-metros also, and social media is playing a big role there. And it is, in fact, at least in Tanishq, what we saw that the growth of Facebook fans was higher from non-metros than metros across the last 1 year. And I'm sure there is something specifically that you would be seeing. Any thoughts there that you would like to share?
In our case, we found when it was a surprise to us. We thought it's still a metro phenomenon and it's typically large cities. But the Facebook, this thing is coming from tier 2, tier 3 towns also. Because of the one reason that, and I think the mobile penetration is so huge today in India, and most of the internet usage is through mobiles. So that has really helped when reaching out to the tier 2, tier 3 towns through Facebook.
Sure. Any thoughts on this the non-metro opportunity using social media? Any thoughts there? Okay. Just as a last topic of discussion, so what is the future? Where are things going, and how can we? Mahesh spoke about the life cycle of the networks and the need to be on top of what's the next thing. But is there any thoughts that anybody else would like to share upon?
I can just add a couple of things. I think, there will always be the next big thing in social media. There will be people that will think of a new platform to, this is going to be the latest or the new Facebook or whatever. But what I think is that what you need to do is that you need to research where are your customers. So whatever platform you're using, you have to be where they are, or else really, you're wasting your time and you're wasting your money. So I think, doing proper research, and it's again laying the foundation before you get started with a campaign. It's, make sure you know where your customers are, and make sure you know to speak their language so that okay, they are not using that particular term, they will be using something else. So I think it's all about in the research and before you get started, and also being able to handle it when that floodgates open.
Sure.
So.
It's a bit like, I've been in marketing 20 years. I think many of these guys look of the similar vintage. Many of you guys have 10, 15, 20 years with you. When I started marketing, there was Doordarshan. And when you took Chitrahar, and I don't think we ever spent sleepless nights at, so what's going to happen? Cable and satellite came. I think most of the leading brands got onto it really quickly. Most of the laggard brands got on much later. Social media came along and the same thing happened. So I think as a smart brand, if the good brands are the ones who will stay on the edge of the curve, because Facebook is just a tool. It isn't a media. It is a piece of media by itself. It's like Times of India was. So I think brands which stay on the edge and, like Mahesh said, keep experimenting, put little bits and pieces of your budget into these newer things, are going to be ahead of the curve. And I wouldn't even want to, try to predict the future. I don't think it's fair for any of us to even attempt doing that.
The one thing I'd probably say, one of the things that I've found where brands find a difficulty dealing with social media is their internal constructs. Many of our companies are constructed based on, what Kotler wrote in 1959, which is there's a silo called customer service, there's a silo called marketing, there's a silo called legal, there's a silo called HR, there's a silo called ops, there's a silo called investor relations. And in many large companies, these silos don't talk to each other. And in social media, actually, the expectation of the consumer is that you're one brand and all these silos are one entity. When somebody asks you a question, you can't say, hey, I'm marketing, talk to somebody else in customer service. You have to say, I'll get back to you. So one key thing that we work with our with companies is to sit back and say, can you at least create a very tight committee and a tight linkage between these otherwise unconnected functions, product marketing, brand marketing, legal, HR, ops, investor relations, customer service, CopCom. Right? Put them on a committee, make sure that they meet once a week, once in 2 weeks, they're on the same mail trail. Because you need to be able to resolve issues very quickly. You can't, go back and say that's somebody else. So I think that's one organizational change where you need to connect the silos or break them in some way. That's really one. And the second one is the ability to also understand when you work with vendors that you can't anymore work in this is the creative agency, this is the media agency kind of thing, because in digital the creative agency is a media agency and vice versa. Right? There's no separation of these two, that this guy creates a message and this guy spends the money. I think you'll find more and more, you'll have to change a few things in terms of how you're structured and how you deal with some of the external forces to allow you to respond better. And then you'll be ready for whatever comes. And I agree, we have no idea what will come. But organizationally, I think it's worth looking at, and what she said, which is make sure all your employees are on social media, make sure you have a social media policy. You can work with an agency, the agency will have 100 people, but you have 5,000 and 20,000 people working with you. Why don't they, your message should go out through their Facebook statuses, through their Twitter updates. Why should it only go through the agency's handles, right? So make sure you get your team on board. Two or three things that I would talk about in terms of preparing yourself for the future.
I was just wondering what kind of metrics organizations are using to judge how they're doing on social media.
What kind of measuring metrics or a measure that you have, how well are you doing on social media?
His one is easy. He uses it to see how many people come.
Yeah. Actually, no, that's one part. But I'm saying on a social media platform, whatever you have, some tools exist on those on those platforms. They are basic analytics, but you have to buy the apps. We had to buy all the apps. Basically, there are drop-in box apps which are available on net, which you can buy and actually then analyze your data, what your social medium is doing. So, for example, Facebook, you can actually analyze the kind of demographics which is actually liking you, number of male, female, where they're coming from. But you have to buy these apps. There is no inbuilt tool available yet on these. So you can actually do that. So you can see what your traffic is all about. So analyze that. I don't think it's going to make any difference, honestly. What can I do with this analysis? It's not relevant to me. I look at it. We bought the tools. We look at it. But I'm just telling you, honestly, does it excite me? No. What excites me is that if people are reposting what we are posting, are they sharing more? Are they, giving back a comment, good or bad? And I think that's relevant to us. I'm really not, analyzing the traffic flow.
Let me just try this again.
Sure. Okay.
You spent X amount of money.
Sure.
What is the return? How do you measure?
There is no definite ROI as such. There is everything that you throw into this. There is somebody who's actually liking it and actually going to be a consumer at the end of the day. But there's nobody who comes into the doors and say, oh, I'm a Facebook page fan and that's why I entered. We do have coupons and stuff, and we see a lot of people actually using the coupons. That's an easy measure. But I like to say, every conversation, if it's going into his subconscious, he will actually walk in, or she will walk in through your doors one day, because they see you. They're in your subconscious, you're in their platform, and suddenly he's going to see a place. And like a Cafe Coffee Day is a great example. They don't do crazy advertising. You'll never see a CCD ad, but they do a very good Facebook medium of advertising. They do relevant, they talk about coffee as a conversation. It'll always remain in your mind. So I think every time you see coffee, a Cafe Coffee Day, you'll think of conversation and have a coffee. So it's, I think, in the subconscious. That's what I feel.
So I think that's an entrepreneur talking, that's a marketing person, justifying budget. So maybe I'll try to give a slightly, a differently nuanced answer. The most valuable metric that I have found that is commonly available, that you don't need to pay for, is you download your CSV from your Facebook Analytics and do just one calculation. You get a boatload of statistics, right? The most there are two valuable metrics that I found. One is what I call virality, which is you take your viral reach. And what viral reach is my page, she comes onto it, she's a fan, and how many of her friends have seen my content on her page. So it's the count of the number of viral reach divided by the number of my fans on any given day. So I look at that. That to me is my virality metric. It's not a metric Facebook gives, but I can just do A by B to come at that. So I look at, a good healthy number is 5, 7, 8, 10% every day. An unhealthy number is less than 2% every day. The second number I see is what's the power of, how powerful is this virality? That means for every N viral reach, how many of those people joined as fans? As in how compelling was the content that these guys, they didn't just see it on her page, but they chose to come directly and join me. And that's also available. You have to do B by C for that. Right? Look at these two ratios. These are two things that'll help you on a very, very broad level. This tells you how powerful your content is and how powerful your engagement is without really going much further. That apart, if you're an e-com company, and I can tell you, certainly we look at and on, literally ROI on a daily basis, on a per post basis, so you can go to any level of metrics after that based on what you're looking at, and that will be different if you're an e-com firm, that'll be different if you're a bank and you're looking for sentiment scores. For example, one of our clients, which is a large bank, we measure sentiment across the posts to say, okay, fine, what's my sentiment metric? The rest is kind of depends on what you want. So there are tools to measure everything else, but the most basic engagement tool I look for is a virality tool. I hope that helps.
Just to add to this one, I think with all the metrics they talked about, I think there are two more things which we guys look at. We have a strategy of omni-channel retailing. A complicated word, but just to simplify what I mean is, we can reach you through a variety of channels. So we can reach you through emailer, we can reach you through SMS, we can reach you through a press ad, we can reach you through television, YouTube. So there are about 20 ways we can reach you. Okay. By reaching you, there are 5 things you can do. You can walk into our store and go and buy that shirt. We'd love to. It doesn't always work that way. You could go to our e-commerce page. There we can measure you perfectly, like he said, as ROI. You might go to our store during a visit to Bangalore while you're hanging around at the airport, because we also have airport stores. You may call in and dial our number to dial in a book. You could do various. So there are various inputs, various outputs, which you could react. Now, all of them is not measurable. In fact, you can do it with some amount of complication. You can chase a customer across these fields, okay? And you can figure out he saw your direct message, he saw your loyalty ad on YouTube, he also saw your press ad, okay? But I wouldn't worry too hard about measuring that. As long as you can get that omni-channel thing right, and you can get traffic to your e-commerce page, which, like he said, you can measure to death. You can measure what he saw against what he bought. Did he fill the cart? Did he just come? Etc. Etc. Yeah. So I wouldn't worry too much about just because we can't measure it today. According to me, omni-channel is a good place to be for a brick and mortar e-commerce player, and it's like God, in a way. You can't measure it, but some of us do believe in it.
With that, actually, it's a very vast topic, and in fact, 2-day conferences are arranged on such a topic, and I think difficult to cover it all in just 1 hour. So with that, I thank the esteemed panel and all of you, because to make it a very engaging and interesting conversation, and I hope we all are around any further questions that you may have, because I have been warned to wind up. I think we are slightly behind schedule. Okay, so thank you once again, and have a good rest of the afternoon and the evening. Bye-bye.